So the path to 270 shifting a little bit for the presidential nominees in our latest take. The new Fox News Electoral Scorecard shows Hillary Clinton getting 274 electoral votes. Donald Trump seeing gains with 215 electoral votes. Daron Shaw is Fox News pollster and political science professor at the University of Texas and part of our decision team. Daron, it's always good to see you. Thank you very much for joining us at the top of the show here today. So here's the new map. You guys are crunching these numbers all the time. 274 for Clinton, 215 for Donald Trump, 49 in the toss-up category.
Right.
Take us through it. Well,
a couple of changes we made are somewhat predictable. For instance, we've got Arizona, which had been a toss-up state, now leans Trump. We had Utah because of a 3-4-way race going on there with McMullen, the independent candidate, along with Gary Johnson. Had been a toss-up. Now we feel safe in putting that in the lean Trump.
And those two are always in GOP territory. So they're now more solidly in that direction, you feel.
It looks like, you don't see any last-minute stops or surrogates from the Clinton team going to those places. I think we're kind of consistent with what they're saying. North Carolina, on the other side of the agenda, you've got North Carolina, which had been leaning Clinton. There's now enough empirical evidence, both from the polls and from the early vote returns, that we feel that's back to toss-up. It had been toss-up a lot of the fall. We had moved it to lean Clinton when she was kind of riding high after the debates. Not so much now. That could go either way, and what we're hearing from insiders is that the Clinton campaign is a little concerned about lower African-American turnout in some of the metropolitan areas there.
Which is something we've heard about over the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny, you're hearing these different stories about early voting in these different places. The Mountain West states, the Clinton people seem to be doing very well, especially Nevada, which we have now put lean Clinton. It's a key battleground state. We had a toss-up for a while, but the early voting numbers plus some recent polls suggest Nevada may be leaning that way. So a little bit of movement to her out there in a battleground state, but a little bit of movement back into the toss-up category out here on the Atlantic coast.
All right, so that leaves us, if you look up at the toss-up, 49 in the toss-up category. So Donald Trump would have to win all 49 of those if he were going to make his path, and that would bring him to 264, I believe, right? So then he's got to find 6 more that you already have in the Dem-leaning category and make those pull over. Where are the likely places for that?
Well, I think the most obvious place is the one we just talked about, which is to pull the fat out of the fire in Nevada. I've talked to some people in Nevada, especially in Washoe County, which is Reno, who said that they were so far behind early on in the early voting that when Clinton opened her early voting campaign out there, she had the president, she had Beyonce out there, and they've been slowly making up ground throughout the campaign. We still think they're a little short, but if they have a big turnout on Election Day, they can get the 6 from there. That would be the most obvious place.
So he's got to find 6, as we say, if he's going to make this happen, but it's tricky when you look across the map. Look who's here. I'll tell you what, my buddy.
Tell you what.
Our favorite hillbilly.
I'll tell you what.
Hey, wait, only I can say that.
I say the Jersey version. You know what?
You know what?
What do you think, Chris?
I think that the polls have coalesced. We see the data point. Our poll, CBS poll, ABC poll, everybody, bing, 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 coming in. The halftime report average of polls today, it's not out yet, but I'll go ahead and tell you because don't tell anybody else. Coming in at, I think, 3.3 point lead for Hillary Clinton in an average of the 5 most recent credible national polls. So she's got a lead. But we have to remember, Barack Obama's lead going in, on this day 4 years ago was only about a half a point. So this thing's going to squiggle at the end. When we go down and we really count vote, we really see the data. Yes, Hillary Clinton has a lead, but there's enough variance here that if Donald Trump, those voters, these older white male voters, that Donald Trump needs to go out and storm the ballot boxes, figuratively, for him and turn out en masse to go out there and vote. If that happens, he's within striking distance.
I mean, that remains the huge unknown here, right? Everything about history and science tells us that the polls are generally right.
Yep.
What we've learned through this process is that sometimes you get surprised. Donald Trump has been a big surprise all the way through the primaries. Is there anything that you're seeing in these numbers that tells you that these polls are not right?
Well, you can take 2 things into account. The first is the variance we've seen over the course of the year. Now, it hasn't been huge. I mean, you have political scientists like me who will say that, well, the variance has been a little overstated, that, Hillary has basically had between a 2 and an 8 point lead throughout the campaign.
Right.
That's true But if you go back and look at the volatility in the polls that we saw in the primary elections, I mean, go tell the Hillary people that the polls have been right throughout this cycle. They've got some Michigan scars I think they're still living with today.
Yeah. She lost to Bernie in Michigan.
That's right.
And that was a big upset.
That's right. So you've got that. On the other hand, I'm looking at the trend, and what Chris had mentioned I think is right, which is there was a trend towards Trump over the last week and a half, and it seems to have stalled. And that's the thing that I think we're kind of most impressed with as we think what we think is going to happen
interesting
tomorrow.
that when you look at the Comey period, right? The last one at the end of October before the Comey news came down, and where we are now, it's not all that different.
No, and the race, if you go back to May when this race started, Ted Cruz is boop, and the race starts. He's down 2 points, basically. We're finishing the race. He's down 3 points, basically. Yeah. So we've had a lot of drama. We've had a lot of tweets. We've had a lot of stuff, but we're sort of back where we began.
Counties. Which counties, for those who want to follow the, state by state, and we know Bill Hemmer will be at the billboard ticking off those counties and seeing what we're seeing out there. Which ones should we really watch, Daron?
Well, I'm going to, there was a nice AP report today about the top 10 counties. I'll go a little off the board. I'm interested in Washoe County in Nevada, which is Reno, and I think is going to be an important indicator of how Nevada is going to go.
You think that's Trump country?
It needs to be Trump country. He needs to make up votes that he's going to lose in Clark County, which is Vegas. I'll also go, and I'm way off the map here. I'm not even in the right state, according to the AP. I think Michigan is still interesting. I have a feeling Michigan is going to be even closer than Pennsylvania.
Really?
And to me, that means it's not the Cala counties in Philly that we're talking about. It's not Montgomery and Bucks. It's Macomb and Warren outside of Detroit. So I'll go there in a toss-in bonus county. I'll go Mecklenburg in North Carolina. Not because it's a tweener, but as an indicator of black turnout.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's why Mecklenburg is interesting. So I'm not interested so much in the distribution. I'm interested in the total vote count.
Yeah.
Let's take one from you, Chris.
How loud is the volume? And so there are bellwether counties, and we look for those to see how the states that have historically voted, or counties that have historically voted with their state. I'm looking at those. But the other thing we're looking at is intensity counties. So I'll give you an intensity county. Washington County, Pennsylvania. Suburban Pittsburgh into rural Pennsylvania. Coal, formerly Steele. Tell me how they're voting in Washington County and how big turnout is. If Pennsylvania is going to be competitive, it's going to be because folks in Appalachia, on the Appalachian side of Pennsylvania, come out in force.
I mean, the Trump argument all along has been wait till you see these people come out of the woodwork.
Right.
Who come out of the woodwork for the rallies everywhere they go, and whose pictures they take, whose signs they take pictures of in all of these rural areas, and whether or not they can ramp up the numbers in terms of the get out the vote in some of those places. I know you guys are going to be telling us what's going on. And
I'll tell you what.
We can't wait. I'll tell you what. This gets very exciting right about now. Daron, Chris, thank you very much, you guys. We'll be seeing you throughout the process.